Who doesn't love a good film noir, especially in a theater packed with people projected on a huge screen, or even in your own home on your big screen TV? But what about noir that is made specifically for a small screen? Is that even a thing? That's the topic for today's episode. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. This is my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today we look at the world of TV noir. Let's check it out. I got the idea for this episode on TV noir from this book called TV Noir, Dark Drama on the Small Screen. It's by Alan Glover. It's a hardbound book. Even has a slipcover, or a book jacket rather. Pretty nice embossed cover there. And it is on glossy paper. It's about 250 pages. It has a list price of $40, but on Amazon right now, brand new, it's about $10, which is what I paid. If you get a used copy, it's even cheaper. So this is what it looks like inside briefly. It has some photos. Some of them are pretty small. A lot of type. I will say, for me, the major drawback on this book, aside from the fact that I don't agree with everything he says, is this type, I don't know if you can tell or not, is very light. Maybe the point size is too small, but maybe the paper's too bright white. But this is very difficult to read, and I don't think it's just my elderly eyes either. I think that's just a flaw in the book. Either the type's not dark enough or the point size is too small. But you can see there's a lot of type in here. So it's not really a coffee table book. It's not really a reference book. It's not really an art book. Or a scholarly work. So I'm not sure what it's trying to be. Maybe it's trying to be all those things. But let's take a look at some different parts of the book. This is the table of contents. It's pretty abbreviated. You have 4 different sections: live noir, a classic cycle, neo-noir, and closing scenes. There's also a bibliography that goes on for several sections. The bibliography is separated by the different chapters. There's also an index that is pretty good. And the page layouts, as you can see on top, it has the name of the book on the left-hand side, and then the chapter name on the right-hand side, with the page numbers up on top. Let's look at some key parts of this book, TV Noir. Now, the author makes a stand that radio led into a lot of these shows that were put on TV, and they had anthology shows from series called like Playhouse 90 or the Philco TV Playhouse or the Kraft Television Theater. And these were dramas. Sometimes they were based on radio plays, sometimes not, that were about 60 to 90 minutes. Starred a lot of famous actors. They became famous out of these shows, actually. And some good writers like Rod Serling and Patty Chayefsky. Whether these were noir or not, I don't think so. But here's a couple of shots. There's one from Patterns by Rod Serling. Here's one of Marty. You might be familiar with the Ernest Borgnine film, for which he won the Best Actor Oscar, I believe. This is Rod Steiger starring in Marty. And Marty, I'm pretty familiar with, but I don't consider that noir at all. I don't know why he's saying that. And then another one that's pretty well known is Requiem for a Heavyweight. That's the Rod Serling screenplay, and there's Jack Palance playing the boxer. If you're interested in seeing these old anthology series from the early 50s, they might be available through the library or through YouTube, but they're also available in this DVD set on the Criterion Collection called The Golden Age of Television. It's a 3-disc set, and that's what's included there. There's several that you might be surprised actually started as TV plays, like No Time for Sergeants, Bang the Drum Slowly, and Days of Wine and Roses. But you can see a lot of well-known actors were in there. Dragnet is one of those shows that started as a radio show. In fact, a lot of the early scripts for the first Dragnet series were just the radio scripts redone for television. Jack Webb was the mastermind behind it. And this, to me, is really a cop show. Yeah, it takes place in LA like a lot of noirs do, a big city. But the style of it is, even though it has some tough talk in it, it's a very plain looking style, the way it's shot. It's not very interesting to look at. The dialogue is very clipped, and you can see this is kind of a boring shot, and that's usually what it looks like, and I don't see how this is noir at all, but let's go on. One fun thing about this book is it is a good reminder of some shows that I remembered as a kid, but just vaguely, and for example, M Squad. Now, I was too young to watch it on the original run of this. I must have seen the reruns. But this is another cop show. But the highlight is Lee Marvin is the star. I mean, Lee Marvin's always great. He plays the lieutenant. But again, this is just a straightforward cop show. I don't see anything noir about it. There are a couple of shots here that look pretty noirish, but I think that's probably the exception rather than the rule. It did have a jazzy soundtrack, which is a good noir influence, or a good noir characteristic right there. This is another show I vaguely remember from growing up. Richard Diamond I never heard of, but Peter Gunn I did hear of, and had a very famous, catchy theme song by Henry Mancini. And again, this is just a private eye show. I did watch a couple of the episodes on, I think they're on Amazon right now streaming if you want to check it out. The first episode was pretty stylish, pretty noirish, but then after that they just like regular kind of flat TV shows. Again, they used a jazz soundtrack for this one. Another thing I liked about this book is you discover some shows that you may have never heard of. For example, this one, Johnny Staccato. They only played for one season, and this starred John Cassavetes as a jazz pianist who was a private eye on the side. And in fact, they had a lot of well-known jazz session guys at the time playing on the show. I have never seen an episode of this. You can see this on YouTube. By the way, a lot of the things I'm talking about you can see on YouTube. They're almost all available on DVD. Some of them are actually on Blu-ray too. So Johnny Staccato ran for one season. Cassavetes apparently got this going because he wanted to get some funding for his independent filmmaking that he was just getting into. And apparently he had a lot of say and a lot of control over the scripts and what went into this show. I think you can get this on DVD for like $20. I don't know how it looks. All I know is it's an interesting curiosity here. Now here's a show I'm sure you're all familiar with. This one will live forever. The Twilight Zone. It ran for about 5 seasons here. I never thought about this as being film noir. Yeah, it has some elements of paranoia in it, some Cold War hysteria in it. But I always thought of it more as like a supernatural or maybe science fiction or thriller or morality plays. Some of the episodes look a little noirish, like maybe this one here. But for the most part, I mean, it's a great show, but film noir? I don't think so. Another one you may be familiar with is Danger Man, which was called Secret Agent in the United States. It had the great theme song from Johnny Rivers, and then years later redone by Devo. Both versions are great. And then The Prisoner. Both of these are Patrick McGowan vehicles. The Prisoner I'm much more familiar with. Danger Man or Secret Agent was a kind of a James Bond knockoff. It was a spy show. The Prisoner was kind of this weird science fiction-y show, which does have some elements of noir, and the fact that he is on his own. There's a very paranoid theme to it, because he doesn't know where he is or how he got there, or what's going to happen to him. But looks-wise, I don't see it having that noir look whatsoever. Here's another popular show that might be the best argument for this being noir. It's The Fugitive. Ran from 63 to 67. It even had a conclusion, which was unusual for series back in that time. Usually they just stopped. But most people are familiar with The Fugitive. David Jansen, very brooding, very moody as Dr. Richard Kimball, it's one of those typical wrong man themes. He's wrongly accused of killing his wife. He's on his way to jail and he escapes. And then the rest of the series, he's just trying to, find out who killed his wife. And he's sort of looking over his shoulder all the time. So some good noir elements there. The look of it, I'm not sure. Some of this looks pretty good, but I'm not sure about the whole thing. This is another example of a show I never heard of, and so it's kind of interesting to discover this in this book. It's called The Loner. It ran for 1 season. It's a Rod Serling show starring Lloyd Bridges. He's a cowboy. It's after the Civil War. He's disillusioned. He's just kind of roaming around the country by himself. I like the photo here. I don't know too much else about it except what's in this book. I have not seen it. Again, you can actually buy this thing for like $20, I think. I do remember this show, The Invaders, from 67 to 68. I thought it ran longer than that. But this was mainly a science fiction show, really. It's Roy Thinnes is this guy who realizes that aliens are taking human form. And you can tell because their hands look something like, I think their fingers out like that. That's how you can tell. But nobody believes him. So he's kind of on his own. And he's paranoid about, is this guy an invader? Is he really a human being? What's going on? And he just travels from place to place. And this is the last show I want to highlight. It's Kolchak, the Night Stalker. It ran from 72 to 75. Now this was a spin-off from 2 very popular TV movies, The Night Stalker and The Night Strangler, that starred Darren McGavin as this character, Carl Kolchak. He is a reporter and he always seems to be getting involved with these sort of supernatural things like vampires or zombies or werewolves. And it was a precursor to the X-Files. But I don't think it's really that noirish either. It's more of a supernatural kind of monster of the week show because the look of it is pretty flat for the most part. He is a reporter. There is a voiceover. So those are, common noir characteristics. But otherwise, good show. I'm watching it again right now. And there is a problem with all these TV shows as far as them being noir. And I'm going to talk about that as we move back over to the Kazdoy closet. And I'll give you my final remarks on all this stuff. Well, now that I've looked over that TV noir book and I've thought about it a little bit, I'm not sure how good of a match TV and noir is. I mean, noir relies on suspense and on tension and unpredictability. And TV can be so formulaic and episodic, especially these older series I'm talking about. And it's kind of hard to build suspense and tension when a series is like that. Now, if we're just talking about cop shows and private eye shows, or maybe even shows about the dark side of humanity, I mean, that could apply to a lot of different TV shows in the past. Hill Street Blues, or The Rockford Files, or even Veronica Mars. Are those film noir? I wouldn't classify it as such. I think noir has to have a certain visual style to it, and I think that's kind of hard to pull off on TV, especially for those older shows. Because with those older shows, we knew the main character was going to come back each week. We even knew the minor characters were going to come back next week, so there was really no suspense or tension there. And most of the characters, except for maybe the main character, they were pretty one-dimensional. Now, you could make an argument for more modern series as being noir. That, I think, is valid because they take more chances visually, character-wise, plot-wise. If they have to kill off characters, they do. There's more suspense, more unpredictability built into it, more tension. I'm talking about shows like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or Boardwalk Empire. I'm sure there's others you can think of. So that's my thought. Those are my thoughts on TV noir. What do you think? Feel free to leave a comment or a suggestion down here. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. I didn't get to 100 subscribers by mid-January. I got to 103. I want to thank you all so much. Really appreciate that. Feel free to share this episode with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.